Welcome back to another Jazz basketball breakdown. Kind of what we expected, right? The way the Jazz is rolling right now, Tyrese Haliburton-less Pacers, we kind of expected to roll this team.
Expected to put it on them. Man, you can tell that the rest of their squad knows how to score too. They
Yeah,
are
there's no question that they
an
are
efficient
offensive
scoring
powerhouse.
machine that we couldn't stop for a good chunk of the game
Yeah,
until we really got Miles Turner in his fifth foul. And apparently they were going by college rules because he was done.
he just left. He said, "I'm out."
He was fouled out.
I wonder if he got hurt or something where he
Yeah,
just walked straight to the locker room. I didn't check.
something had to have happened.
What's funny is you look at the start of the year, our first 20 games, first 30 games, even without Halliburton, wouldn't go into this game with the expectation of winning, right? That's how expectations have changed throughout the year. You
No
wouldn't.
question.
It's going to this game. It's like if we lose the freaking Pacers without Halliburton, I'm gonna be mad. Whereas at the start of the year, it would have been like, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, we had a part there where we were expecting a little bit, and then holy crap, we're bad. Let's lower the bar here. Let's lower expectations quite a bit farther down, and then now we're like, wow, we've dramatically turned it around. I didn't expect to have the expectations go back up this year like this again.
No,
I'm
not this
cool with
year.
it. I'm cool with it. Yeah, I was pouting the other night when I wasn't able to watch the game with you. Stuck up in a snow blizzard in my house,
Yes.
which I like my house, but the game wasn't on there and we didn't have our show.
Right. Yeah, and having to do this by myself, it's a little rougher than being able to have someone to communicate back and forth with. Why we
Even the
do it.
hefty talkers, it's pretty tough to do. But expectations are back up high. This has been an unbelievable run. And I ended up watching the Lakers game just a little bit after the other one. What's really standing out is the versatility that we have of our bigs, especially by adding John Collins.
Mm-hmm.
And like you mentioned several times, being able to play him at the five. In games where there are plenty of games where Olynyk has playmaking, Kessler really is changing teams in the way that they attack the rim on him. John Collins, in the way that he is spreading the floor, he didn't shoot so well from three tonight, but against the Lakers, the way that they intentionally did not want to have Anthony Davis guard Markkanen, and so they had him guard John Collins, and then John Collins just pulled him out of the paint with his three-point shooting. The versatility that we have with our bigs, the amount of pressure that we continually keep on teams the entire game. Our backup units aren't perfect, but we have some people that are scoring, and man, have we started getting to the free throw line.
Yeah, that's a big thing that we mentioned several times tonight. Just watching this game is that not just Markkanen especially, but not just him. The whole team has started really applying pressure at the rim and attacking and not shying away from contact, not shying away from physicality. And so you're forcing refs into these calls. And that's something you have to do, especially in the league nowadays, if you really want to be on that higher level of free throws. And that's Markkanen. It's just like, seems like lately, every game he has 10 plus free throws.
He does not. Last year, there's some times that he shied away from some of the physical battles. He does not shy away from that. I don't know if that's the stint in the Army. Word is Will Hardy's going to enroll our entire team in the Finnish Army this offseason.
No kidding.
We're going to start off. We can't shoot very well at the start of the season, but we're going to beat the crap physically out of everyone.
Well, and tonight is another example. Jarace Walker is a very physical defensive player. That's why he got drafted so high, and that's what he was all in college, and it's what he's been so far in his early career. Is he is a physical, very strong, stout defender, and Markkanen just kind of tossed him to the side several times.
Yeah, he was touted as being 6'7", 260 coming into the draft, and a very physical piece. Now he's a young guy, still learning his way, but the physical advantage was obvious.
Now I think the best defensive matchup you could have thought of to come to this game was to put Nembhard on Lauri Markkanen.
Puzzling.
Maybe not the best, right? Especially, it's funny is it's the day after Rick Carlisle comes out and talks about how Markkanen's the closest thing we've seen to Dirk, and then proceeds to put a guard on Markkanen at the start, and it was very quickly that changed. They end up bringing in Toppin and putting Toppin on him, but it was pretty quickly a couple possessions in a row. We could have done it more. It's something I would have going
Yeah,
into that. You see that matchup, I am telling Martin to post up and attack that every single possession until they change it, because he could have scored 30 points in the first half.
very interesting. I think that had Neesmith been healthy for them, that probably would have been the matchup they would have went with. And I think the world of Nimhard. I really like him as a guard. I think he's a tough player, but that's not a thing.
You don't put him on Lowry
That's
Markkinen.
not a thing. And they're a team that really struggles defensively, anyways. I mean, Rick Carlisle's quote. I don't know. I pulled it up just because I didn't want to mess it up. I don't know. Did you hear the quote that he had talking about how it's so cool and fun that they've been? He said being historically great is fun because they're on pace to be the highest scoring team
Yeah.
in NBA history. But even dating a pretty girl gets boring after a while if she can't guard anyone. Speaking of Rick Carlisle, man, that was
Fair
awesome.
enough.
That was a great quote. And it's true. I mean, you can't date a girl if she can't guard anyone.
Yeah, and dude, Lowry Markkinen just kind of asserted. I mean, he had 32 and
Ended up 10. He had
must have
11.
lost him.
Yeah.
He had 11 rebounds and then they took away or something. But 32 and 10 and 3 assists was 4. Once the stats kind of bounced around
The
weirdly
home stat
with him,
keeper.
but 32, 10 and 3, 10 of 15 from the field, 10 for 10 from the 3-point line. I believe 3 for 4 from the 3-point line, and once it's 15 shots, does that in 3 quarters. Super efficient, and it's just like he's doing it so easily. You look back at it, and it's like, man, how easily can you hit 40? And through this stretch, he is evolving as a playmaker. His passing and his willingness to pass, but not just willingness, but seeing it come to him more. That is starting to change. That is starting to grow and evolve as a player. And if he can start to develop, even averaging 3-4 assists a game, holy crap, that just elevates him to a completely whole nother level. And a team as a whole, because the way teams, his gravity that he has with and without the ball, man, it completely changes what the team can do.
The way that the team plays for each other, it's night and day from, and that's, you've got to give a tip of the hat to Will Hardy on that. We had what seemed like so many selfish players at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And how that they've been kind of molded in to buy into the team concept, and they're really looking for each other. Colin Sexton at the end of the game, talks about how he's constantly watching game film and what he can do to pass better and be a better playmaker. And you saw kind of an effortless pick and roll with John Collins where he runs to the rim and just flips it over his head because he knows it's there.
Collins is going to be there. They're starting to trust that with Collins.
And I mean, we also had a pretty flashy alley-oop to Markkinen, who kind of just one-handed just poses in the air, and
that was nice.
We seem to be getting a little bit of flash and flare to our game, and the teammates are getting rewarded and having a great time doing it, and it's kind of just exponential growth for all of them out there. Even on a game where maybe some of our players aren't shooting great, we hit a decent amount of three-point shots, but I still feel that like Fontecchio and Agbaji and those kind of players are just shooting a little bit. They aren't hitting their normal numbers right now, which we feel they'll come back and hit that. But there's so many different angles that we can hit teams with, and so much pressure. It's just kind of just unrelenting pressure that we constantly have the entire 48 minutes of the game. It makes us kind of a unique team. Now, as we get into some of these games where we're going to face some of the top teams in the league, and I mean, obviously we played Denver at home healthy. We'll get OKC in here in a couple of games. Who knows what Golden State's at? Who knows where their head's at this next game? It'll be interesting to see what kind of tests and pressures we get as teams really try to pick apart what we are building and what we are doing. But my goodness, what a fun run.
What's funny is you talk about, how the team has clearly bought in. That's something I was going to talk about is during this run of not just the win streak, but this run of the last 18 games where we've only lost 4 games, I believe, during that stretch. A huge thing that has changed with this team is the turnovers. We were such a turnover heavy team, and lately it has been a lot lower. Tonight we actually had more turnovers than we should have because we had a really bad stretch in the fourth quarter. But you take that away, super low turnovers again, and we have that's been more regular during this stretch. And part of that, I believe, comes with the unselfishness that the team is now playing with. Lots of turnovers from Sexton, Clarkson, Talon Horton Tucker. Those guys were getting lots of turnovers in the early part of the year.
Correct.
Those guys also were way more often putting their head down and just looking for their own shot, not playing within the offense.
Mm-hmm.
All of, Tucker's not playing, but Sexton, Clarkson, even Olynyk, those guys are all playing way more within the offense and way less just dribble heavy possessions, and it is leading to less turnovers.
We see so much less of that we talked about so much early on in the season, the dribble heavy, get in there, bump into a person, another person, kind of falling down, fumble it out, kind of assist, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't see those moments as much where the ball just gets stuck in a player's hand. We seem to be moving and flowing and getting absolutely real tough to guard assists with the movement and the off ball movement that's happening out there. So that has changed dramatically, and obviously all with the same players, right? We haven't changed the players around.
What's funny is you're almost at a point where you're okay when Chris Dunn gets a turnover because it somehow always leads into a fast break dunk for us.
He always just takes it right back.
He gets a bad turnover in the first quarter and just leaps up one-handed with his huge wingspan he's got, rips the ball out of the air, turns, oop for a dunk. And that dude, it's like he gets a turnover and he's so pissed at himself about it that no matter what, that team's not scoring.
For some reason, it makes me think of Waterboy, where he intercepts it. What's his name? 62.
He goes and
He
gives
throws
him
it
the
to him
ball.
so he can kill him. I don't know.
Yeah,
It doesn't
dude.
quite totally make sense, but somehow it makes sense in my mind.
Yeah, that dude is just such a mean bastard, and I love it. I love it.
What an interesting combination in time where players got hurt and we looked like we were at our lowest point. We were just like, let's just develop the young players and we'll be happy. We don't have to win another game.
Right.
We're fine with it.
We can lose
cool.
every game this year and be happy.
You said that. I'm pretty sure word for freaking word. We can lose every game this year and I'm happy about it. And it comes to find out that, holy crap, Chris Dunn in the starting lineup calms us down. Holy smokes, Colin Sexton in the starting lineup is explosive, and each game is progressively playing a higher level of sporting intelligent ball. And holy cow, Jordan Clarkson coming in off the bench doesn't seem to have that pressure and is playing a more of a free-flowing,
back to playing as the sixth man of the year
to be
that the Jazz
a
had.
super strong sixth man. I mean, I was watching the Denver Nuggets show right after we played him, and he was lamenting how we embarrassed him, but he was talking about Jordan Clarkson, and to have somebody off the bench to be able to score like that and make those kind of assists and do those things. And it's true. His assists, he's truly gone from being kind of the selfish scoring specialist at the beginning of the year. I'm not saying he wasn't trying. He was trying his butt off to trying to score like crazy, to actually looking for teammates and still scoring and getting assists and involving teammates. Against the Lakers, heaven forbid, he even played some smart defense. I mean,
he got his hand on several balls tonight. It's the past couple games, all of a sudden, right? That's what we said. We don't need you to be an elite defender. We just need you to buy into the team defensive mentality, get in front of your guy, even if it's just getting in front of them as they're getting the rim long enough for Kessler to rotate over to block the shot or whatever. But his buy-in has changed, and it's changed the team.
And all of a sudden, the rotations are, being more impactful, and we have less downtimes. We have less bad lineups. We used to really be afraid when they would check in Clarkson, Keontae, and Olynyk all together at the same time because it was such a defensively soft lineup, and now we seem to be holding our own a little bit more, and it's not as scary of a thing. So
I don't know the way Olynyk's playing the last few games. I'm afraid whenever he subs in for anybody.
Olynyk's been in a little bit of a funk for a few games. Very true, and you can see him kind of talking to himself too. Seems to be mumbling, and you can tell he's kind of in his own head a little bit.
He just past couple games seems to have woken up and not wanting to play basketball.
It's it's been a little bit of a, and you get ups and downs like that, right? Interesting to see how it comes about, but it's been a struggle for sure. Um, what are the next steps as a team like this? I mean, we're 2 games above 500 now, pretty squarely in ninth place, ahead of the Rockets now. We're just 1 game or a half game behind Phoenix, I think, for the 8th spot.
Yeah.
At what point? I was telling you during the game here, I don't think that we are a top 4 team in the West.
Right.
I don't. I think there are times that we can compete with those teams here and there, but I think that overall, when it comes down to it, especially in a playoff series, I don't think we are. I'd love to be wrong, but I think that we're pretty squarely kind of a 7th, 8th place team at best. We're in 9th place right now. That kind of a team. At what point along that journey do you say, let's not get rid of some veterans and see what we got? Because in the past, we have been happy with 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th place. We had the anomaly year where we were in first place and won the regular season. Obviously didn't do anything in the playoffs. And this is kind of something we talked about a couple of videos ago, and there were some comments. And, why would we want to trade everybody? Why do we have this losing mentality? And it just kind of seems to be a little bit of a disconnect of some fans are happy with winning some.
Yeah.
And wanting to just kind of keep everybody there and have a good time. And whereas the front office and the owner are saying we are gunning for a championship, right? So if there's an offer that comes across, and obviously we're not going to get 3 first-rounders for Olynyk or anything crazy like that. There's an offer that comes across that helps make us a little bit better a couple of years down the road, and we lose kind of one of the veterans right now. Is that a situation where you pull the trigger on that if you're an 8th place in the West team?
That's what's hard right now is because of not just because being in 8th place in the league team in the West team, but the fact that over the last 18, the best team in the league, right? And that's where you have to start looking at things as you go, and it depends on the deal. I'd be much more willing to trade Olynyk for less right now, truthfully. Mainly a huge part is because Taylor Hendricks. I mean, I'm somebody who I say I would trade Olynyk for basically nothing. I really would, just because, and it probably costs you wins this year, but it puts Taylor Hendricks on the court, and you start developing Taylor Hendricks. Even more with this roster, with Lowry Martin, with Walker Kessler, with Colin Sexton, Keontae George. So, I mean, he's a guy I'm much more willing to trade for basically anything. Some of the other guys, you're really going to have to, it depends on the trade, right? It depends on the offer that comes across. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think we're a team that goes and wins a championship this year. We're burning hotter than I think our potential, our actual level is, which is fun, and it's fun to watch. But when you get into a 7-game series against the best teams in the West, and then the finals, heaven forbid you get that far. When you really get into those grinded out games, do you guys, as fans, do you see us beating the Celtics in a 7-game series? Do you see us beating the Nuggets in a 7-game series? Realistically, the championship battled team like the Nuggets, can we beat them in a 7-game series with the roster this season? Probably not. No, it would take a miracle in my opinion.
No.
But so those are the pills you kind of have to swallow as a fan. And Ben Dowsett, I think, put it talking about what do you do in the next month with trades, and basically at the end he just said I do not envy Danny Ainge and Justin Zanuck right now.
Sure, you can make arguments in either direction, right? Which is kind of what makes it so appealing, to be able to have those discussions. To me, if we could say that we were legitimately a top 4 team in the West, legitimately, we're talking playoff style basketball, because when you get in the playoffs, you don't play 10, 11 players. You shrink your roster down to 7, the 8th man, and sometimes the 9th will get a minute or two just to play some offense-defense matchups or whatever it has to be, but the starters play a whole lot more minutes, and so it basically negates a lot of our advantage, right?
Right.
whereas we're kind of playing right now just with our starters. It's kind of weird. We play our starters and we don't ever really finish the game with our starters, our starting 5 unit. I guess here and there every once in a while, Dunn will be in there.
We usually
with that 5.
We usually end with the same 4 of Collins, Markman, Sexton, and Fontecchio, and then Clarkson and Dunn.
And either Clarkson
and Dunn have kind of rotated. It seems back.
I think Keontae did last game, right, where he was playing so well against Lincoln, they had him finish. So anyways, it basically negates it. So to me, if we were legitimately a top 4 team in the West and we felt that, you could make the argument, and I think it's a solid argument, to keep your veterans, try and maybe add a piece and buy, see what you got to do. But if you're talking about 6th, 7th, 8th in the West, I think that you're in a situation, especially with our roster, where you're still trying to acquire talent.
Right.
You're still trying to acquire assets. And if it bumps you down a few wins to do it, I think you do it, right? I mean, you have to be smart in how you do it, but I think that I don't think that's a losing mentality by any means. I think that is having your eye on the prize of, yes, winning right now is fun, and this group has been fun to watch kind of take off, and it's been a blast. But the real goal is not just getting into the playoffs right now, but being a hot burning beast of a team,
right,
2, 3, 4 years down the road.
And it's funny, is a big part of that on getting us into that top 4 team in the West. I think a big part of that is where Sexton's development really puts him, but also Keontae's development. He has another game tonight where our bench unit, honestly, in the fourth quarter tonight sucked. They were really bad to start the fourth quarter, and it just felt like every time we went to really close the game out, we just made stupid turnovers, or kind of the old silly crap that we used to see. And Keontae all of a sudden just explodes and just buries the Pacers, and that is a huge part of how do we get over to the hump. And it's getting those kind of development with those players. And if it takes, what's up, dog?
What's up, Baker?
If it takes,
even outside, this guy, dude, he's been all over me.
Baker, come here. Go lay down right there. But it getting us into that kind of hump is really finding a star next to Markman. Can that be Sexton? Can that be Keontae? I don't know. And chill.
I brushed my teeth, I promise,
chill.
Dude.
And so that's what you're trying to find, and that's where, if you trade Clarkson, it has to be the right trade, right? You have to find the right pieces who are going to fit in with what Will Hardy wants to do. Because Will Hardy is obviously showing growth as a coach, and the way this team has bought in to this, kind of team basketball that you're talking about. The right player has to be able to fit in timetable with the Jazz, but also personality-wise and player-wise on the court with these guys. So that's where it makes that job so freaking hard.
Super tough. And I think there was a commenter a couple of videos ago, saying, well, what do you think that we could even get for a player like Olynyk? and believe me, we don't think that we're going to get a top 5 pick or anything like that crazy. But I mean, one of them that just kind of popped into my head would be like a player that can fill the Chris Dunn role here in a couple of years. And one that popped into my head was basically Andre Jackson Jr. with Milwaukee. And he's a player that came in the second round, but he's shown an ability where he can be an all-NBA defensive player down the road. He's that good. And he's the one that's been filling in when Dame Stoudemire was out and struggled against first teamers, which rookies do. That's part of it. But a player like that's on the end of their roster when they have not Stoudemire. I keep calling Stoudemire. How long has that been since that guy played?
Talking about Amari Stoudemire?
No, Dame Stoudemire.
Dame Stoudemire. Okay,
like 2000, man. But Lillard and Campaign, when they come back, he's going to be on the end of the roster. So it would be a player like that would come back that still needs a couple of years to work, but is a playmaker and a great defender and an athletic guard type of thing. Those are the type of players that would interest me in getting, that would come and not necessarily play right now, develop, step into a role maybe here in a few years
He's a
after kind
guy.
of Chris Dunn is gone.
He's a guy who allows you to sign Chris Dunn for several years and throw in the G League for a year or two
Sure.
and really kind of blossom without taking minutes from Chris Dunn.
Right. It's that kind of a player that I would be looking for. You can also package it together with other stuff. And obviously, you would have to match salaries and do all the stuff. And I'm not saying that, you always get comments, well, they wouldn't do this. It's just, in a general sense, that type of a player looking to upgrade, that somebody that wouldn't come in and do what Kelly Olynyk does right now.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it would be a little mini step backwards now. But in a couple of years, it would actually pay off, and it would be something where it's a higher level. So for that's the type of trades that we're talking about in my mind. I don't think we're going to make any huge, big blockbuster things happen.
No. And like I said, it's such a freaking tough job for Danny Ainge because, a big part of it is you have to look at does this team win a championship in the next year or two, or does this team win a championship in 4 years, 5 years? Is that when that timetable really looks like? And that's part of why, we've talked about, Clarkson being an example. Clarkson's 31?
Mm-hmm.
And so he's a guy who championship teams are going to pay top dollar for because his 1% ability to come in off the bench and score better than anybody on the court. His ability to do that is going to help. It helps teams win a championship. And so it's not about we got to get Clarkson off the team because he sucks. It's more about, I've actually been super surprised with Clarkson and pleasantly surprised with the way he's played since coming back from injury and his willingness to buy into the system. But a realistic 31 years old at his play style and stuff like that, is he still going to be that player when you are trying to truly make a championship run? And if not, you have to be willing to say, okay, one, it's better for us to develop, Bryce Sensabaugh maybe in that type of role or whoever, or get some picks from teams or whatever. But also, two, it's better for Clarkson to go play for one of these championship level teams and truly compete for a championship in that role.
Yeah, I guarantee you he would want that in his camp, his entire camp management team.
Yeah,
that for sure. And that's part of what he was holding out for. And if the market hadn't changed, probably he would have gone and signed somewhere like that.
Yeah, 100%. So
it's how I feel.
But at the end of the day, to me, I don't know. The next month is going to be super intriguing because it's a hard pill. It's a hard pill to swallow for a team that is the best team in basketball over the last 18 to 20 games.
It's interesting because it was so easy in wanting to make moves when we were not getting the results on the court. But at that time, our players had little market value. And now that we're winning and they're putting up stuff, our players have market value, but it's like you kind of have the tendency to want to hold on to them more, right?
Yeah,
you get
that's part of it, right? That's part of it.
Beats you up both ways. So these are the tough decisions. And we even mentioned a few videos ago that we will know what the front office is thinking by the time the trade deadline hits, by what they do or do not do. It will speak loudly to us.
I think the only way we don't see any sort of move is we continue to burn super, super hot to the trade deadline, and we are seriously competing to not just playoffs, but be out of the play-in. And at that point, that may be one of those situations the front office says, okay, we're going to run with this team to get to the playoffs and find out what we need.
See what we got to
have. We're going to run with this team. We're going to go play. Let's say you end up as a 6 seed and you go play the 3 seed, whoever that ends up being, and it's obviously one of the best teams in the West, and you play one of those teams, and whatever it ends up being, you find out really what your weakness is on the team, and then you either make some moves, trades in the offseason or during the next season. But that, in my opinion, the only way we don't see any sort of trade is we continue to be one of the top teams in the league up until the trade deadline during this crazy stretch. And then it's like, okay, well, we're going to run with it and run with the veterans and see how far we can go into the playoffs and find out really what this team needs. Because there's no question, when we get into the playoffs and that playoff atmosphere happens, it is going to be glaring. And at that point, then it's easy to say, hey, we love this guy, but he's got to go. So yeah. I could see it happening strictly if the front office believes we're going to actually make the playoffs.
And so you're thinking of a solid top 6 seed trajectory. I mean, so after we play the Warriors and OKC, our next 2 games at home, then we have 6 on the road, right?
Yes.
So if we keep blazing through that, that doesn't mean we have to win every game, but we keep blazing through that at a crazy trajectory. You never know. The front office may kind of pivot at that point and look at it, and we will know once again, what they're thinking by their actions on that. So this is interesting. But man, it's been a great time to have these games at home, for us to be burning bright after we kind of went through that crazy stretch on the road, 3 games on the road that we knew were going to be insane.
Yeah, I'm excited for the Thunder. I'm curious to see what happens in that Warriors game. I'm really excited for the Thunder. Obviously, I'm going to be at that game. More excited for that because of that. But also, Thunder are one of the best young teams in basketball and one of the best top 3 teams in the West right now. And so, I think with how just hot this team is burning and how good we are playing, I think there's a lot of things we're still kind of getting away with, allowing open threes, allowing certain plays, and getting away with certain possessions. Playing a team like that, I think, is going to be more glaring. We'll see. It didn't happen against the Nuggets and stuff like that, but I'm curious to see, at home how we handle the Thunder and their versatility.
That's true, and they're a high level team, and if any game is close, basically Shea Gilgeous-Alexander just runs the show down the end,
Yep.
down the stretch, and any teams that double him, Holmgren and Jalen Williams have been tearing it up.
Yep.
So fun team to watch. That'll be super exciting, and we get the Warriors, and I hear that Draymond's back.
Yep, came back tonight. Got booed onto the court.
Booed onto the court.
It was in Memphis.
They do have a history. So we'll see if he's on normal Draymond behavior, if it's best behavior, or what goes on there. But
yeah. But overall, want to hear your guys' thoughts also on kind of where this team's at and what maybe your bar is of should we make moves or not. So there's obviously a huge discrepancy within the fan base. So I'm curious to see what your guys' thoughts are. But overall, we'll see you guys Wednesday playing the Warriors. Thanks, guys.